All right, and now we have Gaurav Rastogi. Please join me in welcoming him.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Namaste, my name is Gaurav Rastogi. I've been here a few times previously talking. This time, hopefully the acoustics are going to be nice so you'll be able to hear me. So I'm going to begin with a chant, and I'll describe what it is later. And then I'll talk about the Hindu perspective of about the environment. So please close your eyes if you'd like to accompany me. I'll just chant in Sanskrit. I will describe it later. Om Dao Shantirantariksha Shanti Prithvi Shantirapah Shantiroshadayah Shanti Vanaspatayah Shanti Vishvedeva Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvagam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiredi. So the reason we're discussing the environment, of course, is that environmental disasters are all around us, and we are anticipating all manner of changes in the environment. And so we're concerned about the damage that we are causing to the environment and the sort of behavior that is causing this damage. What system of thought and what pattern of behavior might alter this and bring things back into balance. That's the reason why we're discussing the environment. And involved in this are topics of consumerism, which is the fact that our economies are driven by an earn and spend model where you earn to spend, and consumerism is a big thing. The hyper-individualization of society is another reason for this consumerism, and a lack of perception of interconnectedness between things. Because of this individualization and because of this lack of perceiving the entire system at one go, we see it only in parts. And this lack of connection forces us to see things differently, which is a problem. And in a lack of a system of communicating values and traditions and habits to the younger generations as they come in. So they learn the wrong things because we don't know how to transmit the right things. So really, it's really a choice between a few sort of combinations of things that we have to think about. One is, how does the society look at the spiritual and the sacred, which is, how do you see beyond just the material that is available to you and see everything in a divine light? So that's the first conversation we ought to have. The second is, how do you see the whole system and how it works in synchrony, how different pieces work, how things work in harmony. And the third is, like the previous speaker very elegantly pointed out, this, how do you inculcate a sense of selflessness and not stealing from future generations for your own enjoyment? So to recap, spiritual and sacred is the first thing that we ought to discuss. The second is seeing the entire system at one go, hopefully. Seeing the entire system at one go and being able to act in synchrony with the system itself. The third, of course, is being selfless and not stealing from future generations. Those are the things that we like to discuss when we discuss what each faith's perspective on this whole thing is. Now, the Hindu faith comes as a sort of unbroken faith over thousands of years and comes from a place of 7 rivers. So this is a place of abundance. It's not a place where there's a desert like you were pointing out. And so the thinkers here had time to think about abundance and how to conduct yourself in a time where everything is available, and yet you must know how to safeguard the system, make sure that the water is running fine, the society is running okay. And so the early songs of this tradition, the Hindu tradition, were not about as much about God. They were about God, but the earliest memories that we have in verse are not about God as much as they are about order. The word in the first Veda, which is the first book, first of the 4 Vedas, Veda is the same word as video, which is to see. So when you see, you have a revelation, you sing and you write it down, many thousands of years later when you have a script. So the first Veda explores the idea of Rita very deeply. Rita, R-T-A is the word, Rita. Now that word is still around, it echoes and reverberates through societies, and you know that word as my right hand, you know that word as being righteous, you know that word as what else, rhythm. The flow of things, how does everything work? And I give this talk and I promised myself I would not say it, but here I am, I'm saying it again. Who ripens the avocado? You buy those avocados from Costco, they're live grenades, you throw it at someone and they'll send the cops after you because you're obviously causing damage. But a couple of months later, given Costco batch, 2 months maybe, it ripens and it's ripe enough. It seems like 2 months, it might be 2 weeks, who knows? I'm never sure. But who ripens the avocado? Now, they didn't have avocados then, but they still thought about what makes everything work, right? What is the inherent order behind things? And this sense of order led them to 2 more words. And then that unfolded into what you might think of the Hindu concept of God. But the next words were dharma and karma. Now dharma is interesting. Dharma is what glues everything together. It's the relationships we have with each other. Me with my family, me with my society, me with the world at large. What is my duty towards you? And what is my relationship with you? Very complex word. But all of this comes back from the original search for order, Rita. And once you start thinking about order, you realize that everything is connected. And when you realize everything is connected, you realize that you cannot have piecemeal peace. 2 different words. You cannot have peace in just one aspect of your existence. You ought to have peace in every aspect. So the verse I chanted to you had the following meaning translated into English. May the heavens bring us peace. May peace be with the skies, and may the skies shower us with peace. May there be peace on earth, and may the earth mother bring us peace. May there be peace with the waters, and may the waters bring us peace. May there be peace in the herbs, and may the herbs bring us peace. May peace be with the trees, and may the trees bring us peace. Peace be with the divinities of the world, and may they bless us with peace. May the great Lord of the universe bless us with peace, and may the Veda inspire us with peace. May all existence be at peace, and may peace come from all existence to all. May there be peace only, universal peace for all. May that heavenly peace come and bless me, may it bless all. This is a result of thousands of years of thinking about how things work and realizing that you cannot have something for yourself unless everyone has some of that same thing. And so when you want peace for yourself, you can't just have peace for yourself, you gotta share with everybody else, because only then when there's peace all around, can you have some of it. And so this interconnected of everything is rooted in the Hindu belief. And so our gods, so you might think of Hindus as having many gods, they do not have precedence over this order. This order precedes everything. Even the gods, even the minor gods that you might think of, have to follow order. And so the order precedes everything, and understanding and becoming one with that order is a core part of the Hindu belief system, where we've understood that through experience and through meditation, we've come to this conclusion. So everything for Hindus is sacred. Couple of months ago, I went with my family to the source of two of the 7 rivers. 2 of those rivers we went in the Himalayas, and we went to the source, not at the glacier which was melting, but just at the base of the glacier. We went there, and there are temples to those rivers. Those rivers are not merely bodies of flowing water. They're holy rivers, and they're divinity in their own right. They have temples, and I went with my family to that temple, and we prayed at the temple. We offered our respects to the river. And the interesting thing was, this tradition has been around for thousands of years. Books, the Vedas talk about places that I took my family to this summer, and the same tradition has gone on in those places. Rivers are sacred to us because they're, of course, the source of life, are they not? And so sacredness is everywhere. And of course, the famous thing with the Hindus is cows are sacred, as everyone knows. And cows are sacred for a variety of reasons, but the one I want to bring to you here is the word for cow in Sanskrit is go. And go as in cow, and which is cognative of the word cow. Now, go itself is a multi-purpose word. You use it for different things. Go can refer to the cow. It can refer to the senses, like the 5 senses. It can refer to the earth itself. And it can refer to the Vedas, the holy books. All of them are referred to at different times as go. And so treating these as mother is a core part of the Hindu belief system. Where the cow is sacred because, of course, we drink our mother's milk and we drink the cow's milk. And by that transference, the cow is our mother. Right? And so the cow is sacred. So sacredness is a very core part of the Hindu tradition. Trees are sacred. If you go to India, you're going to see trees have holy threads around them, and temples will spring out around trees. Trees are sacred. Rivers are sacred. Many different animals are sacred, depending on what your belief system is. Sacredness is everything, because the ultimate goal in Hinduism is to see all of reality as the moving of the sacred. So another, I'm not going to sing it, but I've sung it in a previous meeting, Ishopanishad, talks about the first 2 verses describe infinity, which I'll skip for today's talk. But the second verse describes that everything that moves and that does not move is God himself. The word we use is Ish in that sense. And so everything is divine. And once you understand that everything is sacred, your behavior with it will alter. Because you're now not only looking after it as a steward, you're also to serve it. Because everything is divine. You cannot walk without approval of those divinities, so to speak. So divinity is important, and so caretaking is very important, and a spirit of sacrifice and surrender is very important when it comes to nature. So I've covered the first thing. Talk about seeing everything as a system and the synchrony of everything. Hindu traditions, not just the religion itself, but the tradition is very sensitive to the goings-on around us. So at the temple, you see, we're sensitive to the time of day, the placement of the sun, the placement of the moon, the placement of the various stars, and the objects that come in, it depends on what's going on there. Things can be consumed when they're ripe. Things do not need to be consumed when they're out of season. Knowing when something is in season and not in season is important. So a lot of the tradition is built in harmony with nature. And a lot of the problems we have are that I'm having avocados in a time when avocados are not in season. Who knows when they're in season? At the Costco, they're never in season. So the thing is, eating ripe fruit, for example, is a core part of how Hindus sort of conduct themselves. Another part of the harmony is, if you look at a lot of the talk now about vegetarianism in the West, it's coming out because of an eco-friendliness. Because you're saying that eating beef has a certain amount of carbon footprint, and if you're vegetarian, then your carbon footprint reduces. Hindus, a wide majority of Hindus are mostly vegetarian if they're not fully vegetarian. I'm fully vegetarian. I will have milk, but I don't have meat of any type. And vegetarianism is a core part of how Hindu practices are. Hindus eat meat as well, some of them do, but they're not always eating meat. That's generally the consumption pattern. And in general, vegetarianism is accepted, and we know how to make tasty food when it comes to vegetarian food. That's the important part, because I see a lot of Western people trying to be vegetarian and within 3 days giving up because there's nothing you can eat. It's just, it's just boiled leaves and who knows what else. It's tasteless, it's not satisfying, your stomach is hungry, and you crave for proteins. So if you need to learn vegetarianism, you talk to your Hindu friend, they'll tell you how to make it. Good food, it's tasty and it's filling. So the pattern of life that has evolved in the Hindu tradition is in harmony with nature. That's the point that I was coming to. Which comes to the third part that I want to come to. I'll talk about at a little more length. Is the idea of understanding the connectedness and the cyclicity of everything. That what you do here has an impact on nature, and nature has an impact on you. So I'll sing 3 verses and I'll describe them. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is not one of the 4 Vedas I told you, but it's considered the sum of all the Vedas. And to come back to the cow analogy, the Vedas are considered the cows, and the Bhagavad Gita is considered the milk of the Vedas, because now you've milked everything, and the best part of it comes in this book. So I'm going to recite from this book. This is a conversation between God himself, incarnate as Krishna, and talking to Arjuna. This is in the middle of a battlefield, and they're having a heated debate about philosophy, because what else is there to discuss? And here he is describing how to conduct yourself. So I'm going to chant a few more, 3 verses in Sanskrit. This is in the voice of Sri Krishna. Yagna shishta shinishana santo muchyante sarva kilbishai bhunjate tvagham papa ye panchatyatma karanat annat bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhava yagnat bhavati parjanyo yagna karma samudbhava karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagne pratishtitam. What he's saying is, the first verse is, the saintly who eat the leftovers of a sacrifice are liberated from all sins. But the sinful eat sin who cook food just for themselves. The point of this is that if what you do and you consume the labor, you create something and you consume it for yourself, you're cooking food for yourself, that's considered not good. Why? Because you're part of the universe. So when you create something, you offer it back to the universe, and some part of that you consume for yourself. So the first part is leftovers of a sacrifice is every action that you do is a sacrifice. What you do is helping the universe conduct itself, and I'll describe that in the next verse. So you're helping the universe conduct itself. And what it gives you, you receive back as the leftovers from that sacrifice. We call it prasad at a temple. And that's a gift that you receive, and you can consume that. But if you make it just for yourself, you are in a sense stealing from the working of the universe, because you've created something that the entire universe conspired and collaborated with you to build, and you've just put it into your back pocket and walked away. So you are stealing, and that's considered not cool. The second part, in continuation, from food are born beings, from rain, food grows, from sacrifice comes the rains, and sacrifice from karma springs. What he's saying is, all beings are born from food. That's pretty obvious. The rains cause the food to grow. But what causes the rains? Sacrifice causes the rains. What kind of sacrifice? Action. Doing things selflessly is the sacrifice that causes the rains, that causes so a good story that I heard about in this context was 4 boys are sitting in a field, and they're waiting for the rains so that they can actually till the fields and put the seeds in. It hasn't rained. So it doesn't rain, and a week elapses, and they have nothing better to do. So they said, well, what are you going to do? It's not raining, but our job is to till the field and put the seeds in. So we're just going to start tilling the field and putting the seeds in. So they start doing their work. So when they start doing their work, the peacocks look at them in horror, because they're saying, wait, this is out of sync. I'm supposed to be dancing because it's raining, and then these people are supposed to be doing this stuff. Now they're doing this stuff. This is ridiculous. I better start dancing. So the peacock starts dancing because this stuff is going on. Now the clouds look on, and the clouds say, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture. Why is this fool peacock dancing? I haven't started raining yet. And then the clouds say, well, he's dancing already anyway. I may as well begin to at least thunder. And so they began to do the lightning. And then the rain god looks upon the clouds and says, now wait a second, why are you doing all this thunder and sound? If you're going to do all that, you may as well rain. So from your action, even gods change their mind and give you the result. So the entire system works because you're doing your work. And so this understanding, in fact, that's the next verse. And so the next verse is, karma from Brahma arises, knowing that Brahma of the imperishable is born. So, the point of this I'm coming to is understanding the cyclicity of everything, understanding that the cycle of nature works, and you have to act in accordance with it. It waits for you to act. So you must act, and nature will act accordingly. And understanding this relationship that we have with nature, in concordance with nature, is an important part of the Hindu tradition as well. So to sum up, I meet a lot of eco warriors in some of these talks across town, and you're looking for a spiritual vision for the ecology. And if you're looking for a spiritual vision for the ecology which will last you a few thousand years, then it's best to look for a spiritual vision that has lasted a few thousand years. Because if it's been around for 5,000 to 10,000 years, you know that it has lasted, the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, all sorts of ups and downs of history. And that tradition can tell you how to think about the sacred and the spiritual, how to think about the interconnected of things, and how to think about not being selfish and stealing from future generations for the sake of your own enjoyment. And with that, I'm done with my talk. Thank you.
Will you take
Questions?
a couple
I'll take
Okay.
questions.
Okay. We have about
Yes,
4
ma'am.
minutes.
It sounds like it's a little different what you're describing and what we've heard about Islam, and I have a Christian experience, and it's that caretaker.
Yes.
And in Islam and Christianity, we're sort of humans are put in an in-charge kind of position. Am I understanding right that you're describing sort of the human as part of the cycle and far more integrated into it?
That's very perceptive of you. So that's actually a very interesting thing where a king's job, for example, is to take care of the praja. And praja means anything that's been born, whether from an egg or from a womb or on its own. So the king's job is to take care of everything that is born. Humans are not special in that sense in the Hindu tradition. We are part of the system. And our job is to participate in the system in a natural way. Yes.
So not the role of
It's not dominion or stewardship. It's a sense of sacrifice and participation. Very perceptive. Thank you for that question. Yes, yes, sir.
I just want to kind of go with a comment that you just made, and it's not much of a question, but just a comment that caretaking, part of it is the acknowledgement of the divine. Because I think what you said I mean, is the same in my mind as a Muslim as God created the perfect system, and our being caretakers is to kind of understand the system and facilitate it, not abuse it, right?
Sure, yeah.
So which brings us very close. And
Oh, yeah. So
this, you were saying the same thing, but with a different, we sometimes get fooled by the word caretaker, but I think the caretaker takes care of an existing system that is already perfect.
on behalf of,
On
yeah,
behalf.
yeah. That's a fair point, and that's actually right. Now, the actions might be similar. What I was coming to from the Hindu perspective is we arrive at the idea of God from first exploring the idea of order. We infer back that the order must have some sort of ordering entity, and the nature of the self, which I'm not going to get into today. I've talked about it elsewhere in this meeting. But so the Hindu concept of order does not require God. It just says there is order, because that's how we realize that everything seems to be connected. And a divine will is inferred from that, and a divinity is inferred from that. And that might be the only sort of nitpicking difference. Yes, sir?
Well, first of all, thanks to both of the speakers. It's really very stimulating. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm wondering how.
Here, let me get your mic.
How do you reconcile this philosophy and religion perspectives? How do you reconcile this being in the aligned with, if you will, the greater order of things, with things like the agricultural revolution, for example, the fundamental kind of transitions that happen, and with sort of contemporary technology, and
Sure.
could you help me think about how that works?
So if I understood your question right, you're saying that there's order that we've sort of discovered, and in that order is this disruption in the form of human technology, whether it's agriculture or modern technology and so on, and what's the Hindu position on that? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the understanding that the order is supreme, it precedes all the technology, is the important part, and that if we do things that are out of sync with the order will still reinforce itself. Later in the same book, he says, look, every once in a while when order breaks, I come back to fix things. So order, when it goes out of sync, then a change is required, and a change comes about through some disaster or some kind of change intervention. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, before you break into small groups,